The officer issues the expedited removal and the man is quickly taken into custody for deportation. The whole process takes less than a minute. It's your turn. Now, if that happens to you and you are really an asylum seeker, you're out, period, and it's on your record that you didn't pass his idea of what should be done. It's your turn. You know that you should never lie, so you tell the immigration officer that your documents are false and that you're seeking asylum. Well, before I go on to that, I just want to say, does that happen to people? Yes. Rosabelle Munya was thrown out in Houston, I believe it was. No, it was in San Francisco. She sent back to her country. She had a baby, she had a broken arm, the whole shooting match, and what the border guard wrote down was she has no claim to asylum. And she kept saying, I am too afraid to go. And she came in another port of entry 6 months later or a year later into Houston. She got in Houston and then got asylum in Houston, turned around, moved to California, and in San Francisco she sued the United States government for sending her back into danger. However, because the border guard didn't write down what she said, it was a he said, she said thing. But the lawyer, the judge, gave her $87,000 anyway. Yeah. So, if you tell this guy, yeah, that's okay, if you tell this man that you want asylum, he's going to ask you 4 questions by law. At least he's supposed to. And these are the 4 questions. Why did you leave your country, home country or country of last residence? Do you have any fear about being returned? Number 3, would you be harmed if you were returned to your home country or country of last residence? Do you have any questions, or is there anything else you would like to add? Now the borders officer writes a brief summary of your answers, and based on those answers he must decide whether or not to admit you. If he decides you're lying, you too will be ordered into expedited removal and taken away. Notice there's no translator. Although the border guards are bilingual, the border officer's decision is final. You will not have an opportunity for your case to be reviewed by an asylum officer, much less by an immigration judge. And they do sometimes get it wrong. If the inspector believes you, he thinks, well, you might have a credible fear, he will send you to a second set of inspectors. Is your fear credible? Here, they take more time to question you further, they go through your luggage, they place phone calls, they conduct extra computer checks. If they do not find you credible, they will order you deported. But if they decide that you are honest and your fear is credible, get ready, because you're immediately going to be shackled, handcuffed, and taken to an American jail, where they will take away your clothes and all your belongings. You will go through a medical check, give up everything, be dressed in prison orange, and if it's a jail, locked in with criminals, which is against international law. That's how we treat asylum seekers now. It's against international law to hold an asylum seeker in criminal population. If you were terrified before by whatever you went through in that other country, you come into this country and get thrown into jail. What does that do to you? You just go boom, right back into post-traumatic stress, or even, much worse. They did not catch David Bacala when he came in. He had a false passport. They didn't catch it. And it was right after this expedited removal stuff had been passed. And so he got through. But if they had caught him in Newark, New Jersey, where he came in, he would have been in Elizabeth Detention Center, which is notorious for how it mistreats immigrants. Got lawsuits up the kazoo. The UN High Commissioner of Refugees made that his #1 priority to get Americans to stop detaining asylum seekers in 2011. So, now prepare your asylum case. You're in jail. While in jail, you have to prepare your case. And hopefully you will be able to read the written instructions that are in your own language, if they're provided. You are now under the jurisdiction of ICE, with no process for appealing your detention. In fact, there's no limit to the amount of time you can be held in detention. You may need to wait even years for your case to be resolved. And some people do end up waiting years because nobody can come against ICE. They have to decide. Now for La Posada, some of the people that come to La Posada are coming because ICE recommends that they can come out. They're safe enough they can come out. The government does not provide a lawyer for you either. Oh, I wrote that down already. Wow. You might get a list of pro bono lawyers. Otherwise, you've got to get your own, period. And from that list, maybe you can get one of them. 89% of those without lawyers lose their cases, meaning that 11% of them are granted asylum, compared to 52% of those who go through the whole process with lawyers. Asylum is extremely difficult to get in the United States. It is not a slam dunk. I remember saying to one of the lawyers I know, I said, well, that's a way for a terrorist to get in. She said, are you kidding? They're not that dumb. She said, they know that you can't get through asylum easily. They're coming in on temporary visas. That's how they're getting in. Interesting to notice. The government does not provide a lawyer, and this is how we treat asylum seekers. I want you to see what the process is. First, you do an application for asylum, that's written, and then you wait maybe 2 to 4 weeks for an interview with an asylum officer, and that's a very important interview. It's the only time you get to talk about your own case to somebody official in the asylum system, and you can talk all about it one-on-one to this person. Once it goes to a judge, then you're working through a lawyer and a lawyer for the government, counteracting, and all that kind of stuff. Here, you get to tell everything, your whole story in your own words, and they're paying attention to see if you have credible fear. Okay? And if they decide you have credible fear, they will say, yes, you can go on to an asylum hearing. All right? The asylum hearing will be before an immigration judge. Now, right after that immigration with the asylum officer, that's the time when they might get transferred into La Posada, as far as I know, or after they've already gotten asylum and then they come. Now, if you didn't get asylum, you might be there, like this poor guy, this is a photograph from, I forgot, New York Times, and that man is from Tamil Tiger, and he was from, where the Tamil Tigers were from, I forgot this country. He and 4 others have been held 5 years in Florida, in a detention center, waiting. You can appeal to the BIA, the Board of Immigration Appeals, but that takes a long time for them to get to your case. And as a last resort, if the Board of Immigration Appeals doesn't hear your case and your lawyer says, wait a minute, you got a real case here, then we go out of that whole system and go into the judicial system and appeal to a federal court. Oh, gosh. You think it's easy, hey? No way. Contrast jail with this. See that beautiful woman? She's from Ethiopia, and she was continuing her process right there at La Posada shelter. Her husband had been taken away and sent to an immigration detention center up in New York. Isn't she pretty? Lovely woman. Her incredible journey to the south border. I thought, why is she coming in the south? Because she can't get a visa. If you can't get a visa into America, and I remember my Indonesian friend trying to get her sister to come and visit, and we all had to sign papers and everything from the parish. We wanted her to visit the parish, we wanted her to speak, we did everything we could, and sent all that, and they said, no, she can't come. So somebody who's seeking asylum, unless they've got somebody here that can vouch for them, they're not always going to get here on any other kind of way. So this darling woman traveled from Ethiopia to Sudan to Brazil, then through Venezuela, Colombia, Central American countries, then Mexico, through all the way up to the border, costing her $15,000. She got that from her 2 sisters in South Africa, according to NPR. But that might have taken her a long time to get that money. And look at her, she's so happy. She's happy with La Posada. Her story is not uncommon. Okay, back to Regina's story. 5 years after meeting this beautiful couple, my relationship with her changed suddenly. It was a bitter winter night, March 22nd, 2005, Tuesday of Holy Week. This is chapter 1. Sister, we have a problem. Hi, David, what's the problem? David rarely calls. I cradle the phone between my cheek and shoulder and continue unpacking my groceries. They took Regina. What? I stop. What do you mean, took Regina? Who took Regina? Immigration. No! I grasp the phone with both hands. Yes, at 6:30 tonight, 2 policemen with guns. I glance at my watch. An hour ago? But Regina's done everything right. This makes no sense. Pacing back and forth, I struggle to wrap my mind around what he's saying. David and Regina's Bakala's home country, the Democratic Republic of Congo, formerly Zaire in sub-Saharan Central Africa, is one of the most dangerous and unstable in the world. Each of them fled after being tortured. If sent back to Congo, she faces grave danger, even death. I freeze. Oh God, what if they've already taken her to Milwaukee's Mitchell International? What flashes to mind is another case, that of a local immigration lawyer awakened in the dead of night 2 years ago by a panicky client calling from an airport in Paris. She had been picked up by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and promptly put on a plane back to Pakistan. They took her newborn to the father who had tipped them off, an abusive alcoholic against whom she had a restraining order. ICE did not know her asylum petition was pending with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, nor did it matter anymore. I know from working with other immigrant families that once deported, a person has no legal standing in our system. All pending petitions are simply dropped, an all too frequent occurrence. I'll be right over David. Their house is less than 3 miles from my upper flat, the unit I rent in a 2-family home. I grab my winter jacket from the clothes tree, toss the carrots in the refrigerator, slip on boots and gloves, scoop up my purse, and fly down the stairs. And then I think, oh God, how can I do this now? And you'll find out that I'm going through my own problems at the time. So I get over there, and David tells me the kids were in bed when he welcomed me. And later on, I was talking to Christopher, and he said, Sister, I remember when you came because I couldn't go to sleep. I just couldn't until I heard your voice, and then I knew we'd be okay. Good, and it's hearing my voice. Regina was taking a shower when ICE showed up at their front door. And David, the kids came running to see who was there. David opened the door when he saw the word police on their vests. They are not police. They don't have the same authority. That's why they like to work with local police with them, because they have more authority. And he saw the guns on their hips, and without showing him a warrant for her arrest, number 1 mistake, or a search warrant, number 2 mistake, both of them quickly came in the house, began rummaging through the house, rifling through drawers and closets for weapons. The older officer demanded to see David's papers, something he has no right to do, number 3 offense. These are against the United States Constitution. He poked his finger into David's chest, sneering. You're not from this country, are you? Next time we come, it will be for you. And little 4-year-old Lydia, 5-year-old Lydia, was eye level with the officer's upholstered gun. Can you just imagine this child going through this? And little Christopher, 4-year-old, speaks up and says, Stop talking to my daddy like that. Yes, Christopher, go for it. When a startled Regina emerged from the bathroom, they announced their intent, denied her the right to phone a lawyer, that's 5. He has every right to phone a lawyer, and refused to let her, a victim of multiple rapes by soldiers, change into her clothes or even put on underwear. They took her as she was, in pajamas and slippers, no jacket, no boots, into the Wisconsin winter, leaving behind her terrified family. David later said to me, I never think something like this will happen in America. In Congo, yes, they do things like this, but never in America.